All right. Hello, hello. So we are beginning Derech Hashem chapter 1.
Awesome.
We finished the intro and we can begin. So
Awesome. Thank you, Esther. Okay, I'll start. Every Jew must believe, or every human must believe, and know that there exists a first being without beginning or end, who brought all things into existence and continues to sustain them. The, this being is God, or the
amazing.
universe,
Yeah.
or the Holy Ghost, or the.
Yeah, but when we talk about like a godly presence, I think in general, some of what we shared last time that didn't get recorded, so we're gonna just recap a little bit, was that this really important piece that when we think of God or a higher power in general, it's really, really important to understand that a higher power, God Himself has created all of existence, whatever's in existence, and He also takes care of everything He's created. Now, for a lot of us, when we struggle with feeling like, is God taking care of me? I don't feel taken care of. I don't feel that
Mm,
support. A lot of times that is when we've decided to take on some of that responsibility ourselves. And for a lot of us, we'll be like, oh, that's so obvious. Like, if I'm not going to go to work, there won't be food on my table. So then we have to kind of really step away from like a little bit of like our Western approach in general, in the sense that we come from a lifestyle, it's like you can have everything you want, right? Or anything you put your mind to. But when we kind of step into nature, we see kind of an ecosystem of sorts where like you can have a house and a garden and, you know, like grow your own food. And if we really think about it, we don't need much when it comes to sustainability. Where we start feeling the lack of connection to God and Himself, it's when we're kind of leaning much more into our like they say tavas ol mahaza, which is more of like our external needs rather than our
mhm.
internal needs. And in Western society, we've been convinced that the more external stuff you have, the happier you'll be. But what we're finding is that the more we have, the more disconnected we feel. And it's not that we're feeling disconnected physically, we're feeling disconnected spiritually because we're not happy. And happiness doesn't come from stuff. So like you've seen this like trend also of like this minimalistic approach to life where people are like, I'm just getting rid of stuff because it's taking up, first of all, I have to work so many hours for stuff that doesn't even make me happy. And we're
Mm,
going back to this kind of ecosystem space. Like in the 70s, 60s, 70s, it was this like idea of like assets, right? People celebrated having assets, right? The more you had, right, the more respect you would get, or people would acknowledge it by the stuff you had. Now we've kind of leaned into a space where it's about access. It's not about how much
mm,
assets you have. Like a musician, one of my friends, it's a musician in LA, he said, like, his father's a cattle farmer and he moved to LA and he's like, all I need now is a backpack, a laptop, a couple pieces of equipment that he has in a backpack. He sleeps in his car, showers in the gym, eats, fast food or whatever, grabs some stuff at a, grocery store. And he's like, but I have access. I'm able to move around. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? He's not,
He's not confined to
yeah,
anything or anyone.
exactly. And it's an interesting thing because when we think about it, like that's kind of where the world is moving. Like if you see, like,
Mhm.
cell phones are getting smaller, laptops are getting thinner, all the stuff that used to kind of we used to kind of celebrate in the sense of
Yeah.
assets. It's more about I want to get into certain places. I want to and it's really when we think about it, it's I want to connect. That's really where the
Mm,
psyche is, the
mm. Like
psychological.
people giving up their homes,
Yeah,
getting a mobile home with their families, traveling the country.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And then they say also
yeah.
like, they say in America 60 there's most of us don't use 60% of the space that we have, meaning
Mm,
that so much of our energy is going to waste. But the thing is like this, if we're going to work to sustain a lifestyle and then we're not feeling connected, we're feeling that lack of connection, a lot of that comes from us kind of making this conscious choice of let me do more. Uh,
mhm.
I want to be in control, not kind of tapping into the ecosystem where God's created a world where we can receive, right? And when we kind of humble ourselves in the sense of like, is this something I really need? Or is this something I really want? Is this something my ego's chasing? Or is this something that um, is necessary? A lot
Mhm.
of times, like we end up it's like the fishermen and the fish. They say like, you know, so this guy's fishing and the guy comes and sits by the lake and is like, if you catch a few fish, you can go to the market and sell it, and then you can open up this massive company talking about fish. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. My husband works at a fish shop. He comes home, he's like, I'm selfish. I'm selfish. Like he sells fish. I'm selfish. So so basically, and then he's like, yeah, and then you could like buy a house with all that money and then buy whatever, and then you can like sit and relax and just hang out at the water and with the fishing rod.
Fish.
He goes, I'm already doing that. Why do I have to do that to
Wow.
get this? And for a lot of us, when it comes to feeling love and acceptance and all of that, we feel that necessity to earn it. Um,
Yeah.
like Zizek says that our suffering, he says, don't fall in love with your suffering. It's not a sign of your authenticity. For a lot of
Ooh,
us, we
ouch.
fall in love with that concept of we're only authentic. There's an authenticity to us if we've suffered. And it's just like,
Yeah.
no, if you're making yourself suffer, you're just suffering. So
Yeah.
when we kind of peel back from a lot of that and we look at like, okay, realistically, if we want to also see when Hashem, which is God, he says to us that he sustains everything that he creates, then it's going into like peeling back all the layers and being like, not, oh, if I don't go to work today, I can't pay the bills. It's like being like, where am I running away from myself? Where am I
Mm.
not taking that time to you know, feel and experience, and just relax and accept certain things. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's really good, Esther. That makes so much sense. And that analogy with the fishing, that is so true. Like, sometimes I also wonder, like, oh, I should be like doing so much more. I should be like really raking it in with the gifts that I got, with my creativity or whatever. But that's the end game. So what am I going to do with all that? Am I going to have a more relaxing life? My life is pretty relaxing right now. You know, but on a different side of the coin, which might be a different topic, but that's what came up when you're talking about taking all the responsibility instead of releasing it to God, right? My idea, like I'm not so connected to the physical world. I don't think so. Maybe I am compared to someone that's even less connected. But when my whole perception of God will be like this. Let's say I'm driving and I get every red light, or right in front of me, cars are just pulling out, and it's making my destination longer, and I'm in a rush and I'm angry. My first thought is not so much God. I'm angry at the universe. The universe is putting all these things in my way, and in my way, no one else is. Like that's my idea, and it's ruining my day. And I'm like, I am being picked on today. And then I'm back in school where I'm always picked on by the teacher. And I really never did anything wrong. I was such a goody goody, always advocating for the teacher, actually. I'm telling the kids to stop talking. She's talking, you know. But like, I don't know. That's the thing. I feel like I'm good. I'm good to people. I'm honest as much as I could be. And here, the universe is just like slapping me around. Universe. I don't know why I don't say God.
That's fine.
Sometimes,
It's whatever
yeah,
it is to you at the moment, you know? If
yeah,
that's the reality, that's okay.
yeah.
I think there's a few things. From yoga I learned like there's a time in between. There's
Mm,
like when you want something and you get something, what do you do in between, in that time in between? And in that time in
mm,
between, we can either take the time to trust,
mm,
we can take the time to know that we'll get there and everything will be okay, or all the stuff could come into our way. And I've seen myself, like I have ADHD, so I kind of jump ahead of the gun all the time. I try to jump ahead of God always. Like, don't worry, don't I'll take care of it, you know? And
hilarious.
I find myself tripping over myself. And
Yeah.
one of my latest things was looking at some financials, and I'm like, I can't pay this, but I'm, and then the first thing that comes as in being an sorry, a oldest is, um, this is irresponsible if I can't pay for this or I can't cover this. And, we're all doing the best we can with what we have. And it's this a crazy economy and,
Hmm.
business not making enough. And I start breaking down some of the, doing some of the math and thinking about some of the solutions. And it's like an intensive 3 to 4 months of negotiation and persistence and navigating and headache and feeling of failure, right? Feeling like
Mm,
I've failed and I have to find the solution and it's my responsibility. And I go from like one episode of drama to the next in the sense of the negotiating periods of this and being like, you see, this is so difficult and I can't do this. And then all the things that come up, what I'm saying? I always, as a woman, like, what do I always have to get a man involved in business? Like all the things
oh,
come up, right? And and then all of a sudden it all gets sorted out, or some of it gets sorted out within just 2 or 3 things that just show up. And when I step back and look at it, I'm like, there was time and a lack of trust. I was
wow.
just impatient. I was so impatient. And in that time of impatience, like in that time in between, it's like, what are the things that come up? And it's
Yeah,
like the sense of incompetence comes up for me,
yeah.
the sense of urgency, like all those things. And when we look at, like, I saw that I kind of created so much hassle for myself when if I
Mm,
just took that time,
unnecessary, right?
unnecessary hassle. If I could have just taken that time, we could have gone for a hike.
Or to a trip to a beautiful island,
I agree 100%. And
taking
instead,
it up a
I
notch.
gave I gave myself agony and anguish.
Yeah.
And then I had another interesting story that was um it literally is like happened this week where somebody wanted more money for something from me and they were negotiating and they were being extremely aggressive about the the amount of money they wanted for the job they were asking for, that they wanted to do. And I was like, do you know that this doesn't make sense? But I'm like, all right, well, if you want it, then I'm just gonna have to give you that money. And that was after like months of negotiating, and I gave that person the money, and turned out that, like, whatever, it was like a consistent contract of sorts. Um, they had some kind of problem, and basically the extra that they asked for ended up going towards it ended up being a loss because you know what I'm saying? They had to do some damage control anyway. And it was really powerful to me, as in this person didn't see it, but I was like, you
Oh,
can't
wow.
take more than is given to you.
Yeah.
We can try to manipulate it in many different ways.
Yeah.
Turns out that if it's not meant to be, if there isn't bracha, if there isn't blessing, if there isn't like a good energy and positive energy in
Yeah.
whatever that exchange is, if it's money or love or empathy, it's not going to work. And that was a
Yeah.
crazy like thing to see. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I see that is really powerful. I see that a lot in my line of work too. Like I have clients that don't even bother paying me at the end of the job. And I'm like, what kind of people are these? Like how do they conduct business? And their businesses don't even make it into the market. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's a lesson for me to be also better. Like if when I exchange, money for services, services for money, I do my best and I'm happy to pay someone that I really feel like I trust their work or I trust their advice or whatever. So I do believe that also a lot. And also working extra hard. Like I remember I used to work through the night. Like sometimes I was up 48 hours just working to make ends meet. And then I finally had a little extra money. I was so excited. It wasn't meant for me because something emergency happened and that money flew right out of my pocket, that exact amount. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's time to add sleep to my schedule, like a normal person, and things will work out. They always do. Look, we're still here. The lights are
Right.
still
And
on.
and that's the thing when we come back to this line where it's just like, God takes care of us in the sense that
Yeah.
he sustains all of his beings. Like whenever I run into complex problems, we live in a day and age also where like you can Google any problem and there's some complex answer. But there's a simplicity to everything, and the simplicity
Yeah.
is what from your basic needs are missing. Like, do you need to eat?
Mm,
Do you need to sleep? Do you need some love and nurturing or spiritual connection? Or do you need some movement? And
mm,
more often than not, I would say probably 99.99% of the time, one of those things will be your solution.
mm,
Because whatever we're trying to do outside of ourselves it's not possible. It's not because we can't do it or we're incompetent, but because we're human and we're supposed to kind of connect with ourselves, connect to
mm,
trust in the process. And whenever I'm doing a session, especially with like an intake, I'll ask these questions, or somebody will come to me with a very, very complex problem, be like, this is happening, that is happening. I'm like, okay, have you eaten? Have you slept? Have you slept?
mm,
Have you reconnected with yourself? And they'll be like, no. And then they're like, oh my gosh, that was it. And so it's interesting to see how when we kind of take a human approach, we kind of just
mm.
dumb it down, but simplify it. That's usually
Yeah.
the answer. And I think that's also like when we think of God, a lot of people think of these like complicated, complex. When we think of these complications, it's more of we're thinking of unhealthy relationships. You know,
Mm,
a healthy relationship is an easy relationship.
yeah.
It's a transparent relationship. It's a relationship,
Yeah.
it allows you to be you
Mm,
on the level that you are. It doesn't take something from you.
right.
So yeah, yeah. But if you want to
Yeah.
continue number two, but yeah, make a comment.
Yes, I want to add one more thing.
Do.
To what you were saying. About yes, when you're not finding it, the patience, right? And then also and then it was just like look inward, and we find it sort of there, right? The answer is there. So I was single for a very long time, maybe like 8 years, on and off the dating apps, getting more and more, or less and less enthusiastic that there's someone out there for me, right? Like I think everyone could relate in some way. And then the patience was not there. I was just like this all I felt like I needed in my life was a man. And that's it, a good one. And it wasn't coming. It just wasn't coming. So that's when I realized I needed to. It took a while, a couple years. I'm like, oh, you know what? Would I date myself? No, I would not date myself. I would run away from myself. So that's when I started working on myself, like full force, full time. That was that was the direction I was going to. I was looking towards that and less on the apps. And I was still looking at the apps because it was just so entertaining. Everybody with their speaking of fish, it was really funny. I created a lot of laughter on Instagram with it. But yeah, and then it finally came with no effort, but the effort was really just internal. And I definitely turned into someone that I would consider dating. I would consider dating. Yeah, and then Ellie Ron came into my life, and that was also proof that I was on the right track. But I felt it the whole time I was on the right track. But you said that you realized in hindsight that you wasted so much time and energy just worrying and not being calm that is coming. We all experience that and we all see it in hindsight. How do we actually take it with us during the process? How do we actually be really calm in the process and knowing that it's going to work out? Like that's something I haven't figured out yet because I'm still going through that now with little things.
So I think that's part of why we're doing this is
Okay.
because we have that. Because like if I had the answer to that, then we wouldn't need to like polish up on these topics in general. But
Okay.
I think it is, it's like building trust and confidence. And I think the more we know about the topic, right? We know a lot when
Mm,
it comes to a lot of topics, we know a lot of things. But when it comes to like the core values of life itself, which is like knowing God, Derech Hashem, like knowing
yeah.
our creator, knowing our source, right?
Yeah.
We then could understand what resources we actually have, and that
Right.
could help us reconnect. So I think that's part of this discovery. So
Okay. I love that. Thank you. All
yeah, yeah, we
right.
could.
So shall we read number
Yeah.
two?
Yes,
All
please.
right. Okay. Okay. It is furthersome necessary to know that God's true nature cannot be understood at all by any being other than himself. The only thing that we know about him is that he is perfect in every possible way and devoid of every conceivable deficiency. Should I continue? Yeah. These things are known by tradition from patriarchs and prophets. With the revelation at Sinai, all Israel perceived them and gained a clear grasp of their true nature. They then taught them to their children, generation after generation, until this very day. Moshe had thus commanded them in Devarim, you shall not forget the things that you saw with your own eyes, and you shall make them known to your children and to your children's children. Continue?
Yeah,
Or do you want to?
yeah,
Yeah,
go
okay.
ahead. Unless you have
These
more.
no, no, it's pretty clear, but I'm sure you're going to find some magic in between the
I
sentences. You
could tell
always
you.
do.
So something my editor always said is if you see something, believe it the first time. In the sense that for most of
Mm,
us, we forget that intuitive sense. We forget the core of who we are. And I think that is just something interesting to kind of when it says, what you saw with your own eyes, in the
mm,
sense that like for so many of us, when it comes to trauma, we kind of find a way to gloss over it, rather than see it and kind of act on it or
mm,
remove ourselves from that situation um, the first time. So
mm,
this is like remember what you
yeah,
remember
yeah.
things are important. So yeah, that's my little
I
content.
love it. That's a lot of things are registering now with those words because I'm connecting to it heavily. All right, these concepts can also be logically verified by demonstrationable proofs. Their veracity can be demonstrated from what we observe in nature and its phenomena. Through such scientific disciplines as physics and astronomy, certain basic principles can be derived, and on the basis of these, clear evidence for these concepts deduced. We will not occupy ourselves with this, however, but we will rather set forth the well-known basic principles handed down by tradition. These we will present in an authentic framework arranged in a comprehensive manner. Okay.
I think also what he's saying here is it's pretty simple in the sense that he's communicating the approach he's taking. So he's saying all the things that he's going to communicate can be proven in science, in astronomy, in physics. Like if you break it down, you'll be able to find that there. But he's
Mhm.
telling you that he's not taking that approach.
Right.
His approach to his explanation is going to be a little bit different, but
Yeah.
there's backing for what he's saying in actual scientific fact, which is nice for people that have a different approach or want
Hmm.
to dive into some other, modalities. So you
Right.
do 3 and 4, and then I think we can.
Yeah, sure. Hmm. Okay. I'm opening it up on my screen. That's why it's taking so long. Okay. Number three, it is also necessary to know that God's existence is imperative. It is absolutely impossible that he should ease to exist. Okay,
Cease
so
to.
he's not quitting on
Okay,
us.
yeah.
Okay, that's nice. Four, it is furthermore necessary to know. that God's existence does not depend on anything else at all. His existence is intrinsically imperative. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So that is, so I think that it's also like, I think in really, like when we think about relationships, like it's like a
Hmm.
dating period. If we think about this as like a dating period in itself of like, we're, reintroducing some knowledge and information.
Hmm.
One of the things that in relationships is like that will make us consider if a relationship is a healthy one or not is this person going to abandon me somehow?
Mm,
And I think
okay.
that solidifying this, and this is also like whatever he's saying here is also a formula of when we want to create better, more positive relationships, this is
Hmm.
how you do it. You show up for people. You show up for the people you care about, uh,
Mm.
because that is kind of one of the core values of actually building a healthy relationship.
And also expecting the other person not to leave and abandon you if you are just being yourself.
Yeah,
Like show all parts,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. So I think that kind of that concludes it for today's practice.
This
I
was
have a question.
great.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I'm gonna just give me a second here. We're gonna hold on one sec.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I feel like we're never really going to know the answers. I mean, I feel like we have to make our own answers that work for us. Like the whole thing, like even different ways of viewing God. Hi. Um, or feeling what it is in us, and how it shows up in our life. I don't know. I feel like there's different ways for everything, and I think the idea is finding what works for you.
It's also like really trusting a process of sorts, you know what I mean?
Mm,
So it's finding a way to trust the process the same way we would trust a diet or a workout routine. It's trusting a
mm,
process in the sense of why is it so easy for us to jump and trust anything without the information? And I think that is also
mm,
fundamental here, where it's just like anything in life should be investigated in the sense that you don't
mm.
just believe things. Look into it,
Right,
see how you relate to it, make it personal, you know?
right.
Yeah.
But then I also think that like it's like I learned what God is in school and never connected to it. I was just like I have to believe in it. If not, people are going to think I'm crazy or bad. So, I just concocted my own version of God, and now I'm concocting a new version that is a loving version. So, it's still for me making up something. It's not, I don't have anything tangible. The only thing tangible I have is my feelings, my sixth sense. Sometimes I feel like that's coming. My creativity, I feel comes from some source I can't explain. I can't put my finger on it. Um, stuff like that. So that's tangible to me. But to think that to really trust that there is something that is universal and really guiding and doing everything for our good, I don't know if I'm there. I don't know if I will get there.
Okay, well, one thing at a time. It's a process, you know?
Yeah.
And again, the goal of this teaching is for us to go through the book and make decisions once we have all the information. It's very hard to make any
Okay.
decision without having the
Sure.
information. So,
Right. I was hoping you would share your your vision of God and how you connect to
oh,
it.
because everybody has their process,
Yeah, yeah.
I can't make any of those decisions for you. You have to,
Right.
you know,
No, I'm just curious, like
oh,
other people, like their vision or feeling what God is for them.
well, to me, it's like the healthier relationship I build with myself, the healthier relationship I
Mm,
think I have with God. Uh,
okay.
well, for me, it gives me a sense of purpose. I
Hmm.
definitely,
Hmm.
it's there when you understand the infrastructure of what we're creating as humans and some of the practices. I mean, I know that in my nature in itself, I'm very compliant. So
Hmm.
it could be that I just am more compliant and I will obey
Mm,
because it's that is one of my ingrained traits that I'll do something
mm,
no matter what. So that's a possibility too.
mm,
Um, but I've definitely gained a lot from my practice, as in it's given
mm,
me a lot of pleasure and joy in life.
mm,
I think that's the thing, like when you've seen that exchange and you've gotten that quality out of it, then you just keep going. Like even with my Hasidic practice, people say, why do you choose to live like that? Are you sure? It's like you like it? Like what's going on? And I'm a huge fan. And part of it is because I like what I've gotten out of it. So if the
right,
return is good, then you keep doing something that is giving you
right.
what you want. So I think like breaking it down is like asking yourself truly what you want in life and then letting go of all the bullshit and really surrendering completely and saying, I'm going to, if this is the thing I really want and believe, then
Yeah.
I have to put my money where my mouth is. And
Oof.
and that's a thing that for a lot of us will run away from it. We'll say like,
Yeah.
get love, I have to be skinny and have a lot of money or have the right friends when it's just like, no, if you want to love, love every person you see, treat them with compassion. Every person, when you see your,
Mm,
like when you see yourself in the mirror, don't criticize yourself either. Like make sure that
mm,
your mind is full of positive thoughts and loving thoughts. And that's,
mm,
but for so many of us, we'll kind of create this entire obstacle course to get what we need
yeah.
rather than admitting it to ourselves. And I think that that is the biggest obstacle for most of us in our relationship with God is we don't want to admit what we really, really need and love and
Wow.
desire. It's
This is
that
why I love you, Esther. You were just so like you're so real, you know, and you break it down in a way where it's like it's edible. Like I can get on board with that, you know. You're just amazing. I'm just in awe of you.
look, we each have our process and we're here to figure it out
Yeah.
together. But I think yeah, yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey for all of
It's
us.
a journey. It's a journey. It definitely is. But thanks for making the journey understandable and fun and meaningful and for bringing people. Look at you bringing people from like all around the country.
Yeah.
Well, I'll share just very briefly. I don't have a relationship with God.
Okay.
Yeah. And I wasn't raised religious. My grandmother, so my mother was raised a Mormon. My grandfather was a
Wow.
Mormon. And my grandmother, according to her, she was Christianity is Jesus Christ. Because it
Yeah.
feels like there's another God, and that's the whole function of you're not supposed to do that. So
But
that was super confusing for me with
yeah.
Christianity. I took religious classes in college, and I have some knowledge of the Torah, the Christian
Oh,
Bible and the Quran a
yeah.
little bit. And I've never read the Christian Bible. I've never really read the Torah or the Quran like in full. But what I don't understand is that for all three religions, it's the exact same God.
Yeah.
But there's so many different, like so many people saying, "Oh, well, you've gotten it wrong."
Oof.
And so for me, it feels really overwhelming. Like so many people have gotten it wrong to the point where we have all these different religions. What is the right?
So
Like
Right.
what would be
yeah.
right?
So if you look at anything online, especially nowadays, talk about any topic. Go onto YouTube and there's somebody trying to debunk whatever it is.
Yeah.
Vaccines, fitness routines, diets, the way relationships are, any approach, you will find people that will say it's right, and you will find people that say that it's wrong. But the thing that I've learned, and this is why this is so, so important, is that especially with this kind of reading this entire book where we're going to get to, is that the thing that's missing in most of it is making your own decisions. It's
Mhm.
not about what everybody else says is right or wrong. It's going through the evidence, looking at what is out there, doing the research yourself, and then committing to something that you are able to formulate with your own mind, right? Because
Mhm.
God created this amazing mind. We all have these brilliant minds.
Like, oh, this makes sense to me, you know?
Unfortunately, when it comes to anything, to any topic, religion, health, anything like that, I find what I've learned, again, exiting abusive relationships and coming into healthier relationships, is that the people that are the best in their fields or that are living healthy lives encourage you to use your own mind and your own independent thinking. There's a critical thinking aspect of it. And then you have, when you're coming from more like manipulative, kind of cultish kind of experiences, it's always like, you do this because I said, or I'll shame you, or I'll debunk whatever you believe. You know what I'm saying? And that's like, I feel like the difference. So the goal of this is investigate. And that's what he's encouraging you to do. He's saying, investigate. Everything I'm going to tell you is you can find in astronomy and astrology and in math, in physics, in philosophy. You can find it everywhere. Go out and do your research. And that's, I think, the beauty of everything in general. Like, we start with God. If he's the creator of our world, it's doing the research. But for so many of us, we're like, I'm too lazy to do the research. I rather just take what somebody else is telling me, right?
Mm,
That's why you find so many people, like, even the influx of information that's out there is a bunch of recycled information. People aren't actually going to the source. And what's interesting is like, um there's some books, like, I find this thing that, like, I'll find an author that I really, really like, and I'll read his book and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Where did
mm,
he get this material from? Where is he sourcing this? And we see this a lot of times with, like, film and TV. And this is like the exact projection, is that you see an amazing film and people will be like, oh my gosh, these actors, right? And then all of a sudden this actor becomes an A-list actor, right? What does that even mean? It's somebody else talking somebody else's script. What I like to do is always like, oh my gosh, who directed this? Who produced
who
this?
wrote
And
this?
who wrote this? And that's the trick. When you ask anybody if they know who wrote it, they'll be like, what? That person doesn't even matter. That person doesn't even matter. That person isn't relevant.
Don't follow the face
No,
and the
and
actor.
sorry, I think
Yeah.
something. Hold on. And that's, sorry, and that's kind of the trick. And that's kind of
Yeah.
where this work kind of comes in, is like being like, step away from everything, start encouraging like, start formulating your own thoughts, make your own mistakes. Don't,
Okay.
because the thing is like this also. Here's the thing also, I always say, it's much easier to take somebody else's route in life because then you can blame them
Yeah.
instead of taking responsibility.
Right.
The second we take accountability ourselves and we're like, okay,
It's scary.
I'm gonna take responsibility. No, the blame and the targeting comes to you. Like, you
Yeah.
are responsible for those choices you make. And if we're not, if somebody else is making those choices for us, then it's like,
Mm,
that person is responsible for whatever I've gone through or
yeah.
I've experienced, you know?
Wow. That is so true. I can't even pick a restaurant because I'm scared it's going to be a bad choice and then I'm going to be the blame.
There's a really famous quote, Esther. I'll have to find the person, and she says that, as she's a poet, she said, "We have two lives, and our second one begins when we realize we only have one."
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's similar. It's exactly what you're saying,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Esther. Yeah.
And a lot of people just try to prove that God exists or something exists. It's like saying, your body exists, everything you see exists. You don't need the proof. It's
Right.
you need to learn your relationship with your critical thinking and surrender, let go of all the bullshit and focus on saying, I'm going to live an authentic life. That means authentic to my belief system. What gives
Yeah.
me joy, genuine joy, not what's an escape,
Right.
what's an addiction, what somebody else told me I have to do. And
Right.
Okay.
at the end of the day, that's when, as you said, Shannon, like, that's when our life begins.
Yeah. Wow. This is really powerful.
Thank you, both Esthers.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
joining.
I
Thank
feel
you,
calmer
Shannon.
already.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yay.
Yes.
Yay. Awesome. And I like that you wear your heart on your chest. That's
Oh
good.
yeah.
Keep doing that.
Okay.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Esther.
Beautiful.
And thanks, Rahi, for being here.
Yeah.
That food looks
I
amazing. And
know.
thanks,
Next time you have to
Shannon.
make us all breakfast, Ruffy.
That looks
I
really good and
absolutely will.
healthy.
Actually, that was actually kind of the topic they were talking about, like the like take care of yourself. I was like, wow, like
Mm,
I have come a long way because when I used to come to like these classes, I could not do the food. Like it was impossible. And like
yeah.
I'm learning, so
I'm so
Oh,
proud of
awesome.
you.
Look at
great.
that. Amazing.
So yeah, I'd love to make all of you guys food.
Well, okay. So let's set a date.
All right. Amazing. Have a
All right.
beautiful, beautiful day and go
Thank you
discover
too.
things for yourself. Use your process, trust your process. Don't convince yourself of your limitations.
Mm,
Mm.
In this month's actually Nourish to Flourish, for the ones of you that are in the to Flourish, that is one of the big topics this week, this month, is
wow.
not convincing yourself of the limitations. So
Okay. Love it.
yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Amazing.
Have a
All
great
right.
day.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.